Hey everybody, salutations from the west side of LA. We're back after a short hiatus, and well, I wish we could say that our first review in the outdoors in a while is of something great, but alas, this very curious summer of 2024 continues, and we just came out of the very featherless remake of The Crow. Yes.
This is one of those movies where I'm more confused by what it is
To say the least.
than anything. I didn't hate it, right? Like, I didn't necessarily find it unbearable. In fact, there are actually some pretty elaborate and kind of rich technical visual elements in the cinematography in the framing.
Which I kind of expected walking in. The director is a Rupert Sanders. He directed a movie you may all be familiar with from the 2010s, Snow White and the Huntsman, which was a kind of edgier retelling of the whole Snow White fable, and also kind of derided for its screenplay, but praised for the visuals. And I think that's what we're going to get with this movie, where Sanders knows how to frame a shot, but the script is a toneless, uh, overly complicated, yet simpleton kind of mess, to say the
It,
least about it. Yeah.
that's a pretty decent way to describe it. On top of everything else, yeah, it has a bunch of not complex ideas, but it tries to set up a bunch of elaborate plot threads that end up just in a tangled mess. They don't lead anywhere. They don't mean anything
Uh,
whatsoever.
Well, for those of you millennials out there, and of course younger film buffs who remember the original Crow from 1994, directed by Alex Proyas, a true visual
And if you don't
stylist.
remember the film, you will most definitely recognize its licensed soundtrack, which is
Oh, a banger,
incredible.
a banger. And if you remember that movie, the beauty of it was it was visually captivating, with the look and texture of a edgy graphic novel. But the story was it played like a great dark fairy tale, like a great romantic fantasy. That all you had to know from the opening of that movie was there's this legend about a crow bringing back from the dead people who need vengeance for a wrong that happened to them. Brandon Lee, who tragically died during the production of that movie, is the crow who comes back as this rock musician whose girlfriend was raped and killed along with him by these thugs who rule this imaginary city on this night called Devil's Night in the story, and he goes on a revenge trip that's written with a lot of memorable lines, a lot of dark humor. None of that is in this movie.
It never over explains.
Exactly,
That's the
exactly.
beauty, and that's what some people need to understand.
Yeah,
If your premise is already so outlandish, you just need to get out of the gate and just say, this is the world we're in,
yeah.
deal with it, let's tell this story. And I mean, the first, I don't know,
Oh
half of
man,
the movie is just
needless exposition. Oh
needless
man.
exposition, set up with either no payoff or just the worst payoff ever.
Well, the worst payoffs too, because a weird thing about this movie is a lot of setups occur but nothing is explained. And well, I mean, I guess it's not a spoiler, but the villain in this movie, for example, uh, is some kind of supernatural villain who has some kind of dark power that's never explained. So you'll sit through the whole movie and never learn what this guy was.
But even worse, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to write a good villain, you have two types of villains. You have a villain who is directly entangled in the main character, so they're diametrically opposed. or the villain's goals for the larger world our characters living in threatens his way of life.
Yeah, yeah,
This
exactly.
we learn nothing. We don't even
No.
know really what city. I mean, I saw in the credits that there's some German, I guess, co-production. So I think some parts of it were shot in Germany. Some looked like Chicago, but it also just looked flat. Like there was some rain. There's no. Let me
What?
put it this way: the best way I can describe it, to me anyway, it just could not excel at one single thing. The only thing it did a little bit better than the other was the camera work, the cinematography. So more than just lighting, but the actual framing. But everything else just was either average or below average,
Include,
mostly below
and
average.
including the pacing and the tone. The tone was all over the place. One moment, the movie is this very slow, kind of corny thing at the beginning,
Corny emo, which we're going to get back
very
to that in a second.
very corny emo. But then it tries to be like the Dark Tower, you know. But then it tries to be a kind of in the third act. There's a butchery scene. There's a whole slaughterhouse that happens at an
It
opera.
tries
That
to be a crazy 88.
yeah, it tries to be like this kind of semi funny action movie, and you're like, what is it? So one moment you're very bored, the next moment you're kind of entertained, but nothing is explained. Nothing makes sense. And one big disappointment was also the motivation for the crow, because it's hard to even buy the relationship at the beginning of the movie. It's one of those relationships in bad movies that, you know, all the passion and everything apparently happens in 2 minutes, and that's enough.
Literally.
That's enough to set the guy off on a quest from the
Well,
beyond
well, even
to get
worse,
revenge.
the thing that I found extremely disappointing is the lead actor, the guy who plays the crow,
The Skarsgård
one of
brothers.
the
Yeah.
Skarsgård brothers. He played Pennywise in the two It movies. I thought he was cast well for the character. I think he would have worked, but the direction was
Bill
terrible. He
Skarsgård.
was
Yeah.
given the wrong script.
Bill Skarsgård. He's got a great look, as you said. He fits very well in this,
But no
but
emotion
there's no emotion. There's no heart to the character, which Brandon Lee had in
in
spades.
spades.
You know.
And we're not saying do the same thing as Brandon Lee. I think
Yeah.
new adaptations can be very interesting, but if done right. And his
Um,
character, every scene that he's in, he just kind of looks like a he looks like, I don't know, like a rich kid who's trying to look
well,
edgy.
Rich Kid in Rehab.
Rich kid in rehab who's trying to tell everyone that how hard and sad his life is.
Yeah.
It's like it's all just makeup,
It,
literally, because of all the tattoos. It's just a facsimile of edginess.
yeah. It was. You know, that's a good point. It's one of those where the director makes the mistake of thinking that certain touches, like, yeah, like covering the guy up with tattoos to look like Machine Gun Kelly or something, is going
Or
to
Jared Leto's Joker.
exactly is going to sell us on the character. Whereas in the original Crow, Brandon Lee looks like on his own, without too many gimmicks, like he was ready to be a member of Nine Inch Nails or The Cure. You know, I mean, who are both on the soundtrack to the original movie. And this one,
He's just he's
yeah,
secondary to the ride, which is going nowhere. The
yes,
ride doesn't even know where it's going,
literally, like
how intense it wants to
the
be.
ending is not explained. So yes, there's a resolution where there's an eventual standoff with the bad guy, and the crow has, of course, wiped out most of the guys. You know, he's trying to get revenge on, but they never explain how the bad guys even defeated.
And you just brought up a
Yeah,
good point. The all the slaughter the crow goes on, it's meaningless.
yeah,
We have no they're literally just goons.
yeah.
They're all goons wearing suits. And that's it.
You don't care for them. There's no color to these characters. Again, to keep making comparisons to the original, in the original, every goon is individually written to be just really unsavory scumbag that you want the Crow to just get,
which he does.
which he does.
Well,
Yeah,
let alone the main villain.
yeah,
I mean, you hate him.
yeah, yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
yeah. He's
I was telling Alice
yeah,
as we walked out, okay, yeah, like, the staging and the, stunt work for the big fight scene at the end of the remake, okay, it's kind of impressive. But come on, like in The Crow, just the scene. There's so many iconic scenes, but that scene of Brandon Lee on the table.
oh, oh, that's an amazing scene, and the whole structure of that film is the pacing's perfect, the editing is just great. This one, it's again, it's a yin yang. It's a roller. It's a weird wobbly mountain of tones. Like I said, some moments you're dozing off, other moments you might get a little more into it.
Well, people were laughing at it
Yeah,
as if it was a comedy.
yes, that's a perfect example of when your tone is off. When people are laughing in moments that clearly are not meant to be a laughing stock or comedic. And I really doubt the moments where the audience was bursting out laughing were supposed to be funny. Yeah. It was a weird experience. Soundtrack too, very disappointing.
That's something I'll say that I actually hated.
Yeah.
I actually did some predictions with Alcy of what the typical kind of thing for a remake. I thought they would do some like Post Malone hip hop
Yeah.
mixed with rock. Uh, but this just had like the most out there choices, not because they were necessarily the songs themselves were bad, but they did not fit the images
Yeah, it was
in the slightest.
no, you're absolutely right. The music, it was a weird, there was a weird disconnect between the image that you're watching and the chosen song. Like neither added anything to each other,
The
which is weird.
the original soundtrack, which was composed by I think his name is Volker Bergman, something like
Yeah.
that, who won the Oscar for All Quiet on the Western Front. I'll have to listen to it on Spotify. It might not be the best soundtrack ever, but at least it tried to get some of that edgier. It tried to inject some of that edgier tone into the movie, but then the movie kind of sabotaged that.
Well,
It
because
undercut that.
yeah, because you're right. I think the score, when the score comes in, it does add to the mood that you're supposed to be feeling in the scene. But when the songs come in, the song choices make absolutely no sense. Like the song choices literally are disjointed. And in this one, they're going for some kind of like '80s new wave meets, I don't know, modern emo sort of look, and it does not work. It just does not work. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, The Crow. What else can be said about it except that it's it's
it
it's quite a flightless bird, and
it's nothing to get well. I don't know. There's nothing to get offended about. I'll just say just stick to the original one and go instead watch 25th Hour by Spike Lee on the Criterion Collection, which
yeah,
is definitely the best movie I've seen
very
this
good.
month.
Just really great stuff on there, and you know, theater wise, I'm just always going to be personally vouching for Dee Dee. So go watch that. Don't don't go watch. If you're gonna go spend, what are the prices now? If you're gonna go spend like $120 on tickets, snacks, special edition cups, go watch something like Dee Dee, which just expanded nationwide actually. So that's
Or
a
Kneecap, which I've heard
kneecap.
some interesting things about.
Kneecap. You know what? Those two movies are also a perfect example of why instead of watching this, go support your local art house theater. Go support those Lemleys, those New Arts that are in your town. Go support those guys. Go show the Alamo Draft House some love, and go watch something like Dee Dee and Kneecap. Uh, yeah, definitely. Because yeah, let's be honest. We know you've all seen Deadpool and Wolverine like 5 or 6 times by now. Go give Dee Dee and Kneecap some love. Don't you can wait for the Crow on. Yeah, it's probably gonna be like on VOD in like a week or
It's gonna be
something.
in Netflix in a week. Yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah,
number 1 on Netflix
yeah,
for
exactly.
sure.
So go watch those. If you want to stay home, go rent one of our favorite animated movies of the year, Mars Express. That's also online
You have
to
some
to
thoughts
rent.
on that, which I gotta get back into the
Yeah.
editing swing, but we're gonna have a very interesting summer recap,
Oh
which
yeah.
honestly still holds true for me.
Yeah, very, very true. Very true. It's been a very slow summer at the box office. Yes, there's been some big hits, but in terms of, let's say, great cinema, right? Something I'd want to go watch 2 or 3 more times. No, it has not been that exciting of a summer. Hopefully, fall. Fall right around the corner brings in some really good stuff. We're already more than halfway through the year, everybody. So please, 2024, you got to deliver. Well, everybody, that's our take on The Crow. Make sure to keep following us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and keep keep throwing some love at Pierce Mushrooms. You can still use our code Breaking180 if you go to piercemushrooms.com. You get 10% off on any individual packets that you buy of their energy supplement, which I could have used during this movie. So go check that out. We've got more reviews coming up, more recaps, and some special, very, very special episodes coming up.
And our next big project is a very timely one. It's a very special one. It's a very heavy one. We're still working on it, but it's a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
work.
Stay tuned for that. And we got election season picks coming up.
Indeed. But until then, keep thinking critically and enjoy movies.
Peace out,
Take care.
everybody.